This is a video that I have wanted to make for an extremely long amount of time, but I've just never really gotten to it, but why not now? I've talked about it in bits and pieces, but I've never made a whole video dedicated to it, but I am a recovering drug addict. The thing that normally follows a statement like that is, what does that mean to be a recovering addict? Or why are you calling yourself that? I know my mom hates it when I call myself a recovering addict, but to not call myself that, to not identify as that, would be to deny an extremely important part of my daily existence. When someone refers to themselves as a recovering addict or a recovering alcoholic, what they're saying is that at one point in time, they were in active addiction. They were using a substance either too much or over a long period of time, or both in many cases. I personally was in active addiction for around 9 to 10 months of my life, and I have been in recovery for a little over 2 years now, which is something that when I say it, I am incredibly proud of. Addiction is a mental illness. It's a disease. It's something that affects the brain of the people who suffer from it, and it's incredibly debilitating in a lot of cases, and in some cases, it can take lives. It can be fatal. And like many mental illnesses, there are heavy stigmas attached to it, because for some reason, the brain is an organ that we don't really acknowledge when it gets sick overall in society. It's getting better, but overall, not so much. With addiction, it's a little bit more tricky though, because you have the added stigma of the fact that there's personal responsibility involved, and that some people got themselves into that condition, which is partially true. However, there are other factors. There are the circumstances of your birth. There's very heavy links to genetics. I personally have genetic history on both my mom and my dad's side, so I was very predisposed from birth to addictive behavior and to addiction itself. Now, what I'm not saying here is that the addict is absolved of responsibility because they're sick and because they are a drug addict. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I made an entire video about how mental illness is not an excuse for bad behavior, because it's not an excuse. However, with addiction, it does explain the behavior in a way that is really sad when you think about it. I can only really speak from my personal experience, but I have talked to many other people and it is really similar in that way. But addiction takes away pretty much everything that makes you a human being. It strips you of empathy, of compassion, and replaces it with just one desire, with just one priority. And I'm pretty sure you can guess what that priority is. It's using and getting to the next use of whatever substance it is your drug of choice at that time. While most people out there are worried about their jobs, their relationships, their grades, their future plans, their life in general, the addict oftentimes is worried about one thing and one thing only. And that is something that is incredibly debilitating, because that one thing, for me at least, was something that I loved with all of my heart, but at the same time also hated with every fiber of my being. But that was the only thing that I could think about, the only thing that I could plan for, the only thing that I wanted was that one thing. So you have that right there, which already is a terrible thing to go through, but then you have the added social stigma. You have people labeling you a junkie or a screw-up. You get cast out of various things, which oftentimes that's justified, but there is a severe lack of compassion for what these people are going through. Again, personal responsibility is incredibly important, but you can discipline someone, you can provide consequences in a way that is compassionate, and you can still love them because of that. That's one thing that I am incredibly fortunate to have had during my experience, was the fact that even though I was messing up and receiving consequences from everywhere, I was still loved the entire time. And that's something that really helped me, and I'm sure it's helped many people out there who have been successful. You can imagine that for a person like me who bases almost his entire existence on emotions and compassion and empathy, to be stripped of that is to be stripped of pretty much everything that makes me me. To be honest, I felt a shell of who I was, and I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to be lying around all day doing nothing, not eating, not sleeping, just literally doing nothing with my life. I didn't want that at all, but I did that because that's all that mattered to me at that time. I don't want to make this video about me because I am so incredibly lucky. My period of use was relatively short, and I was able to get myself out before any severe and real damage was done, but even then, there was still damage, and there's still stuff that has to be dealt with, and still stuff that I'm dealing with every single day of my life. I do want to make this video for the millions of people out there suffering right now, people who don't have the resources that I had, people who don't have the compassion that I had, people who are thrown out, stepped on, treated like crap, and called junkies, and just disrespected at every turn. Because these are people who oftentimes are either looking for a way out, or they're looking for an end to it all. And you can guess where that goes in many cases of people who can't find that way out. And that's something that is really sad to me. and it should be sad to you too. I can guarantee that most people watching this video have in some way, shape, or form been touched by addiction, whether that's through themselves, through a family member, or somebody they know, a friend. Because like most mental illnesses, addiction is something that does not discriminate between race, religion, class, nation, culture. It doesn't discriminate. It affects every demographic of humanity that is out there. And while I can't offer you a solution to that problem, I can say the best way, oftentimes you can help, is to just be there, to be present, to lift out that hand and say, if you want to take this hand, I will help you and I will help drag you out of this. Oftentimes that's really all you can do, which is devastating. It's devastating, but that's really it. I've listed some resources in the description if you want to take a look at that for more information. Also, my Tumblr Ask box is always open if you have questions. My Tumblr is also linked in the description. You can ask me stuff, and it's a good space I've found to talk about this kind of thing. Yeah, but that's pretty much all I've got to say on that. Of course, you can add more in the comments, but yeah, as always, I am Connor Manning. You've just become a little more awesome, and I will see you guys on Friday. If you click on my face right now, you'll be taken to a video that, to be honest, I feel like we all need. Just click on it. Just click on it and maybe smile a bit, because I need to smile, definitely. Yeah, definitely wanted to make that video.